Well, welcome everyone to today's session where we're going to, take a practical look at navigating around the Smarter SMSF platform. And today I'm joined by David Davine. Many of you may have spoken to David. If you haven't, he's our sales and business development manager and also runs a lot of the account management on our site and is the one that gets a lot of these questions, David, it'd be fair to say.
Right. And when you ask, hello everybody, by the way, and Aaron, when you pose this topic as a webinar, I filled a book with ideas. So yeah, there's lots and lots of different things and places of help and guidance. You don't always have to, email or call. There's a lot of self-help out there. And the other good thing about all this is there's guides or things you didn't even realize. And that's what the idea of today's session is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kind of get stuck into this because as David had indicated, there was a lot of stuff as we sort of put some stuff onto a whiteboard. That whiteboard got filled up very, very quickly. And what we've ultimately done and will do as part of today's session is to distill this down into 3 key areas and then a general tips and tricks as well. So in the first part of today's session, we're going to be focusing on aspects of ordering documents. So that is by and large the core part of the business and activity that we see on the Smarter SMSF platform. So we're going to be touching on things around integrations, how you can access the sample documents, how you utilize saved and completed orders, all those weird and wonderful things that form part of the document ordering process. From there, we move on to another element of our platform, and that is, of course, around our education and continuing professional development for members. So again, it's understanding, well, how do you as a member, if you don't attend a live event, whether it's our masterclasses or our webinars, how do you access those materials and what steps do you need to do to be able to access and attain your CPD off the back of it? What happens if your firm has a subscription and you have different members within that firm that want to be able to access the subscription as well? So we'll cover off on those things. And then, as I said, we'll look at the functionality, which is linked to the ordering of documents, but is certainly expanding in its overall functionality. And that is around the admin console. And we use this admin console for our team and order management. So teams, both in the context of our SMSF documents, but equally for our CPD business subscriptions and also in respect to support as well. So we'll be giving you some tips and tricks around that admin console, which is really only relevant for the management level and above within an organization, but it will just give you some insights as to what is going on if you might not have access, but what the platform and the power of the platform can actually do. And as I mentioned, we'll finish off with just a few general things around subscriptions and what steps you need to take. So David, let's get stuck into our SMSF document ordering. And I guess the most popular thing that we see is when we talk to people, whether they are ordering as a member, but even when they're looking at ordering for the first time or under a pay-as-you-go basis, is they say, can I actually have a look at the documents that are going to be prepared? And all of the documents that we have within our platform, not in all combinations, but ordinarily there is an ability for you to go and access a sample of the document that will be generated. So,
correct. Yeah, there's so many phone calls you get where it could be, as you said, first-time users or existing users, and they've pretty much set with a certain type of document ordering, and they'll call up and go, well, have you got something to do with a rollover out or a rollover in? And you go, well, yes, we do. And here's samples and there's other areas. And they go, didn't even know it existed. So yeah. I'll usually send out a link to a help guide where there's detail of actually what buttons to press to get to those locations and getting that help and finding where everything is sitting in the place.
So this is our knowledge base area. So you can access that from within any of these platforms. We do and have recently released what we call an app switcher. Many of you would be familiar with that off the back of the softwares that you're using, whether it's within Class or BGL and so forth. So within the app switcher there, at the bottom of the screen, you can't quite see it. I'm just going to shrink that slightly. We do have the knowledge base sitting in there. And again, under there for the app switcher, and even on our old platform, we have an app switcher at the top here. We are just using this to test some feedback as to what people most, I guess, utilize and like. But the idea is it will take you into the knowledge base. And therefore, when you are going to look for a document, if you wanted to look for the trust deed, for example, you can then go in and you will see the SMSF deed upgrade. And then within the deed upgrade here, you will be able to see the document that we actually have embedded in here as well. So you'll be able to go through and have a look at the specifics of how that deed variation might occur. Now, the other aspect to this, which is we're doing a lot of work on this at the moment, is as we are building new forms on our existing document platform, we are revisiting the way in which you can not only access the sample document, but actually see how the ordering process works. So we're ticking two boxes as part of this overall process. One is to say, well, yeah, sure, here's the output, but what does the input actually look like for you here as well? And this one where we've recently updated the new add a fund member that you can see on our documents platform here. We take you through the entire ordering journey. And most importantly, those key elements that we have within the form help to give you some context as to why they've been included. So one of the changes we've done in this add a new member form recently is the ability to add children and members with some form of legal disability. So again, we're giving you those options and understanding what we're requiring. And then off the back of that, we're then including that relevant document in here as well. So the application for membership, you can see the acceptance of membership. If it's under the Smarter SMSF deed, we'll include details of the particular rule. We've got all the relevant consents to act, and we would pre-populate the trustee declarations and so forth as well. So you will see a range of improvements as we're migrating a lot of these documents across to the new document platform. So yes, in a lot of instances, you'll just find the sample document there that you'll be able to view, but you'll also note that for some of these more recent documents, again, we're adding more information into here to not only give you, as I said before, the output of that form, but it's explaining some of the nuances in these forms because many of them are naturally SMSF specialist documents in their own right.
Yeah. And to add to all that as well, Aaron, is people don't even realize that they'll get our newsletters and they'll attend the updates to the platform, and you get snowed in with emails and things. Oh yeah, and this you can go in here at any time, and now where to find all the changes, the updates to the forms, as well as help guides and sample docs. So straight away, don't rely on the emails all the time. Get references from those newsletters, but here is where it all is constantly changed and updated for you all to help.
Yeah. And as you saw me sort of talking through some of that, you would have seen me naturally jumping on and highlighting our new document platform. And I think the most important thing here, David, is making sure people are using the right form. And in many instances now, we have these most popular forms now available on our new Smarter SMSF document platform. So we have our historic document platform, and at the moment, and this is being worked on at the moment to move people from here as an entry point to actually coming to here as the main entry point. But things like our Add a Fund Member is an improved document on the fund member document that we actually have within the existing platform. So what we want to impress on you as a tip is that if the document is available inside the new document platform, then it is arguably a better form to use, because we have either migrated the form in identical terms to what it was, so there were no enhancements that would be made, or we have actually improved that form or replaced that form on here. So within our deed upgrade, for example, in here, not only do we now have the ability to include additional parties, principal employers, founders, and so forth, but in here we also allow for things like deed upgrades where they have cure-op status as well. Those elements weren't part of the previous deed upgrade document that we had on the old platform. Now, we haven't decommissioned these at the moment, but the intention is that we will be decommissioning not only the form here, but obviously the platform in its entirety. So one of our most important tips today is come here first and check what documents are available. And in the near future, you will end up here first. And then if the document isn't available on here, the list, it will be available in the list, but it will take you from the Order Now button back into the relevant page here and back into the document to order through this particular process. So that to me, I think, David, is a crucial step for people to understand, because of the level of attention and detail that we're spending in getting these forms not only into the platform doing what they were previously doing, but doing them in a much better way as well.
Correct. There's a change of legislation, so you've enhanced the form, and also if there was a bug, those bugs are alleviated in the new form as well. So the starting point, crucial. This is the area.
Yeah, absolutely. So rather than me sort of going backwards and forwards here, I'm just going to work through a few of these other key areas, and then we'll jump back into the platform, because to me, just making sure you're using the various validations that we have within the forms is absolutely crucial. So one of the integrations that we have is with an address validation service. So it will not only deal with addresses at 350 Collins Street, where we are, but it will deal with the relevant suite, the relevant level, the relevant unit number, all of those particular aspects to validate that particular address for the purposes of documenting or ordering that particular document. Now, yes, there are circumstances where we see people that have addresses that don't appear, and in many instances, it's not that it doesn't appear, it's just that it's not using the validated address that the government uses for the purposes of the platform that we have here. So we have people, for example, that might just type in, a particular address in Brisbane and then type Queensland and the postcode. Now, technically, it's not Brisbane, it's Brisbane City, and then the postcode, and therefore it doesn't validate. And naturally, that step goes down into the particular manual field address. But all of these things are there for a reason. And in particular, where we're looking for address validation with something like company lodgement, and the fact that ASIC may reject that particular address because it doesn't recognize Brisbane rather than Brisbane City, as an example there. So address validation is crucial, and we would always suggest that we utilize that in the first instance. The other area that we'll jump into shortly is around order hygiene, and really understanding that you do have the ability to use saved orders. And we're going to jump into saved orders around the admin console a little bit later with team members as well, because we're seeing it used more and more. But just, again, keeping on top of the saved orders that happen, you might be using integrations and so forth. Take the opportunity to ensure that you don't end up with too many saved orders as part of the journey. You do have the ability to edit and clean those up and delete those, either on a singular level or on a macro level as well, or global level. The ability to reset orders. Our members do have the ability, other than for company and corporations for obvious reasons, the ability from a completed orders page to be able to go back and make an adjustment. You've found that the client's address was wrong. You got a typo in a name, all those sort of things. You don't need to log a support ticket. You can simply go in and reset, fix the error that you want, and regenerate that order. And that order, that amount is clearly not going to recount as a separate document off your document subscription counter. And the final one here before we jump across back into the platform is just around the completed orders functionality and the actions tab that we have. For many people, you just rely on getting the email that we send you with that document that has been delivered. But understanding what the actual completed orders page does is crucial, because built into the completed orders page is a number of key actions as well. So let's go back, and actually before I go into the completed orders, let's take ourselves back up to any sort of order form and just help you to identify what the actual address validation actually does. Now, in some of the APIs that we have with Class and BGL and Supermate, that information may populate down into the manual address. You can leave it there, it's not a problem. But you can also, through here, if you want to, put in Unit 3, and then as you sort of work through, it will start to find the addresses. I'm using a bad example there. So if I go Suite 4, Level 7, and then 350, Collins Street, and it will then start to drill down and find those relevant things for you. Okay, so, and once you do that and it validates that particular address, the most important benefit that you get from that is that it then allows it to be chosen from a drop menu throughout the rest of the actual ordering process. Okay, if it's not there, then you can choose other address, and then quite clearly you would go and look to validate a different address for the next one as well. If it doesn't come up, then naturally you can go to the manual address and you can put that information in there. Any manual address will not be able to use within the drop menu for future ones where you might have, in this instance, directors and other shareholders and so forth. So again, just that little tooltip there around using that Addressify. It's there to not only validate the address, but save time as you're working through the document, in particular if you're not using the integration there. Now, let's jump back, and David, I might get you just to make a couple of observations around the saved orders functionality. And I'm a really good example here as well, because you can see here I've got multiple pages. So I've got 27 entries here of saved orders sitting within my profile.
So we all know we can save as we're working through creation of a document. We can save on a page and go to the next page, save again. It will then save that entry here at your summary screen. So ultimately, if you as a single user of the platform is going to complete one of those saved orders, might be a bit confusing, so you've got to choose the right one in order to complete. That is amplified when a parent user of a subscription holder has a staff member who has prepared the document to a saved position, and that parent or the admin person wants to check through and complete the order. It's going to show inside, we're talking about the admin console later in the session, which one do they choose from. So could get a little bit confusing. Hence, you've got the ability to work through and delete each of those records, which is very handy.
And then equally, you've got the ability to tick multiple entries here. So if I wanted to delete those 3, then quite clearly I can just choose that and delete those from that particular function on the side there as well. And you have the ability within completed orders and all those to change the number of entries that you want to be able to view on the page as well, if you want to sort of go through and tidy up a lot of those particular entries that might be there from some period of time back as well.
Correct. And another tip that, as a bonus extra into this session, I was thinking of when you were talking about the Addressify, we get calls in a bit of a panic when a document hasn't been generated, in particular ABN TFN orders, and we find out that the data entry that people aren't reading the actual field line. They're in a rush. We understand that, to generate documents. But it might be something about a contact phone number, and they've put an email address in there as well. So that also may, trip people up and doesn't generate the document and gets into hyperspace. We've got to go look for it. So just taking, a little bit of caution, a little bit of care as you're working through the form to fill out the information, be it that it's been integrated from another piece of software, or you're manually typing in, or if you've received it as an admin to sign off on something, that the details are absolutely accurate and correct, especially when it comes to company orders. And we know that, it's once it's generated, you've got to fill out additional forms externally to get those changes through the system.
Yeah, perfect. Now, the resetting orders, very simply, as I mentioned, this is available for our members. So if we have a situation whereby we need to go back and we need to make that amendment, there is that ability here to simply click that reset document. And by deciding to reset, what that will do is move that entry from in there and put it back up into the saved orders area that you can now see there, and will then allow you to resume that particular order as part of the process as well. So something, like I said, if there's a typo that's been made in there, Brian there may, rather than be IEN, maybe YAN. So in that instance, it would allow for that fix to occur. And I mentioned as well, I guess this final aspect that we wanted to touch on here is just understanding the restructure that we've done with our Actions tab. So the Actions tab here is really important, because not only does it allow you to download the particular document that is here, yes, that gets emailed to you with the same link. So that information is automatically stored here for you to be able to access. And even where we make adjustments to a document for you, it might be adding an enduring power of attorney, it may be adding specifics in respect to the removal of an employer sponsor, whatever the case may be, we have the ability to then upload that new version of the document into here. So that will always be available to you via the Actions tab here under the Completed Orders page. In addition, we have a range of functions here. So if you're using SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, any of those sorts of things, there is the ability for you to pass that information up into your relevant document storage solution that you may have. We continue to, I guess, talk to our members what software that they use and whether they would like to explore other sort of integrations around those, but the common ones for practices sort of still do fit into those areas for the time being. Otherwise, the documents are naturally being integrated up into your SMSF software anyway. And subject to, on the completed page, I can go and type the type of document. I can search in here by reference or entity or type. Any of those things allow me to search over the database of my completed orders. And again, subject to what you have done there, may change what is available on here to do. So in this instance, we've got not only the documents, we might have our ASIC stuff, but we've also got doc flows that will allow me to undertake a particular next step. So that information from our company order will now be used and populate 90, 70, 80, 90% of that new SMSF form. And equally, in that new SMSF form, enable me to go and do the actual ABN and TFN as part of that doc flow as well. So you do have on this completed orders page the ability to do much more than simply view that document. And again, you can just see some of those here, and we're spending more and more time on that doc flows technology to be able to support you around that as well. Now, quite commonly, there will be a situation where you go, well, I need some level of support here to be able to make an adjustment to a document, or the fact that the document might not have mapped correctly. So therefore, an adjustment needs to be made. So if there is an issue, in the first instance, it doesn't hurt to reset that document and try and generate it again, because there are occasions where in the number of orders that we have, a glitch or bug of some description may occur, and on that regeneration of that document is resolved. But there will be times where you'll need to log that particular support ticket, and that can be done in a multitude of ways. The first one worth noting is, of course, we do have our ability through our knowledge base and ticketing support for you to log a support question. So that here will be, you've got your inquiry, and you'll be able to then put in that relevant information and it will create a ticket for you. Equally, you can actually go and request or send us an email via support@smartersmsf.com. And that, again, using that process will generate a support ticket in the same way that this function will here. And then using our app switcher, there is the ability to go to support here. And again, all roads lead to the one support ticket. It's not going to work for me, so that's fine for now. But you have the ability to track your support tickets, so those that are open through the support page as well. So there are a multiple of ways to be able to achieve that. I think most people still just use the email functionality. They get that email, they then forward it back to us that way. But again, just noting as you're working through, and equally if you're wanting to find an answer about something, my document didn't generate correctly, well, then you can go in and you can have a look at that particular article that we have within our knowledge base here as well, because all of that is linked back to our particular knowledge base. And I guess, David, if there's any sort of comments you want to make on here before I guess go back to our slides and wrap up this particular part of the ordering process. The other thing that people may have seen in the top right-hand corner of the page is we are working on more AI functionality for the site. We've spent a lot of time in our education space, but the document space with the deed and the type of documents that we have, as you're going through to order, you'll be able to ask questions about the documents and potentially what sort of document you may need in certain circumstances as well.
Did we look at that doc flow with the company orders?
We can do that.
Just to sort of show the doorway of what's potentially a time-saving efficiencies there.
So if we look at it from the new SMSF here, so if we choose our new SMSF as part of that flow, you can then see the ABN and TFN, and that will effectively go and create that new order for the ABN and TFN based upon the information that was in that new SMSF form. So the idea is that the data is populating and passing through. So the more you use this sort of technology, so the tip here is we're spending a lot of time on this new platform, saving you time through the technology to do things in a much smarter way. And we've delivered that in a number of things, in particular our fund establishment process. We've also done it with our change of trustee, so company into change of trustee into deed upgrade. We're also working on it with things like pension commencements and pension rollbacks, so rolling back and commencing again. And the more templates that we get on here, the more opportunities there are to build different doc flows, and then again use some of the AI technology to help learn and understand the steps that need to be taken in different processes as well.
And just as a bit of a pitch for a future webinar, not too far from the future, is on the left-hand side of that live screen was a CSV import. So even greater efficiencies there, where you can actually have a potential spreadsheet, populate it, import. It will generate potentially multiple forms where you can then go review and order. So, and then even further into the doc flow. So yeah, something to watch out for a future session, not too far from the future.
Yep, absolutely. And the other part, which clearly is a crucial element to the platform, is just around the API integrations with our SMSF software providers. So there are a couple of important things to note here. And one is about the connection and quite clearly how long the connection lasts for and your ability to be able to use that connection, not only in the establishment process, but the functionality that sits within those completed orders area as well. And in essence, the comment that I have here around garbage in and garbage out is that the forms will only populate based upon the information that is either A, is available on the API itself, or B, based upon the information that you have in your SMSF software. And a really good example of that is around things like deed upgrades. So if you don't have your history of the deed updates within your SMSF software, then the form is not going to know whether there have been previous variations or not. So the data that we generate within the form via the API is only going to be as good as what you have provided it, or as good as what the software provider allows us to access via those API endpoints. And if you do have a situation where you can't download or feed that information in, well, then there is the opportunity to reset. And that does become not only important, as I said, in the ordering process, but when you start to use that functionality around pushing your data back across to your software. So whether it's a document or you're wanting to do your one-click setup as part of that ordering process as well. So we do regularly run integration sessions. We've got a whole heap of stuff on the knowledge base as well, around our YouTube channel as well. But just jumping back to the platform here again, there is a pretty profound change that we've done from our old platform where integrations sat standalone on the site to now having these within the actual forms themselves. So when we go into a particular form, the first thing that you will see that comes up at the top of the page is the actual integrations here. Now, our green traffic light would suggest that it's connected. The red is, of course, it is not connected. So you can allow yourself to connect. In this instance, you can see here, nothing is coming up. Now, the reason why nothing is coming up is because this connection was connected at least 24 hours ago, and the requirements under the Digital Services Provider Framework with the ATO is that we must, in essence, reset or disconnect that password as part of our security assessments that we have with each of these providers. So in that instance, all we would need to do is simply reset that particular function there, and it will move that connection from, in essence, a green traffic light back to a red traffic light. Now, you can see on the bottom of the page here as well, you don't need to be in a form to be able to see what is going on in here as well. So in this instance, you can see we can then go and reconnect in here, but this does become important not only in the context of our ordering. So if we wanted to connect to class, for example, here, you can see in here, we need to go through and set up our multi-factor authentication. Luckily, I've got my phone in front of me to allow me to do this. And in this instance here, that will enable me to ensure that we are connected for 24 hours. Okay, so we choose our particular organization in this instance, allow access, and then quite clearly that is going to give us not only a green traffic light there, but allow us to then start to look at the funds that we have to look at populating this particular order form. And the same principles of now being able to find those things equally apply to our completed orders page. So we can't push something to class, or we can't push something up to BGL or to Supermate without having that connection available. So here we can now go, because we know that connection is live, it will allow us to choose the particular fund in here. So if your list is not showing on the completed orders page, then go to your integrations on the left-hand side here. Make sure that it is connected. If it's connected and it's not working, reset that connection or connect it to enable you to do one of those important steps. And that is not only in respect to pushing documents for companies, it's pushing the company information across into CAS 360. And I'll bring that one up in just a second. So that will allow you to move across to here. So that's the docs. You can see CAS 360 as well here. So you can then do that particular push and it will ask you to undertake that task. And in our new SMSF, it's going to allow you to do that one-click push across to your relevant SMSF software. So if I'm going to push to CAS, I need to make sure my BGL integration is active. If I'm pushing to Class or Supermate, I need to, or Simple Fund 360, I need to make sure that my integration is active to allow me to go into Simple Fund 360 and then send the fund to Simple Fund to get set up, to send the fund across to Class to get set up, the fund name, the trustees, the members, all those things. So making sure you have a live connection is absolutely crucial as part of that overall process. So David, anything else I guess you wanted to add on that particular topic as people sort of navigate their way around the platform on a daily basis?
No, you've covered it all there, Aaron.
Perfect. All right, well, that pretty much covers our tips and tricks around some of the documents. Let's now move across to accessing CPD for our members. And David, I think I might get you to do a little bit of talking here around what that journey looks like for members.
All right. Yeah, I've often field questions from those who have a subscription or depending if they've purchased individual CPD events that they've missed attending a live event, and they're looking at completing their CPD assessments, or they've taken note if they have actually attended a live event, something of importance, where to find the recordings, where to find all the resources, etc. So there is a library that you can gain access to, and depending on that particular event, you can go into that event and look at the recordings, find the resources, workbooks, checklists, case studies, undertake the assessment, be awarded the CPD hours, and even generate certificates. So it's all there, and a lot of, as I said, members haven't even been into that area. They usually just attend live events all the time and not even realize. So we put together a help guide, and it's all there from A to Z of navigation and finding particular things. So you can type in webinar, or you can type in learn. There's multiple support in that area on the Learn platform.
Yep. So again, you've got the ability to come in here and see what we've got. David's built a lot of guides around accessing the CPD training, again working through what that journey looks like, and then working and jumping into the particular modules themselves. So again, you would use the switcher to go from within different platforms and across to that Learn platform, which will take you to here. And again, subject to the level of subscription that you would have access to the webinars and masterclasses. You may have students that are doing courses as well, but ultimately you can jump into any of these particular areas under your subscription and go in and actually go and watch that particular event. You'd need to enroll based upon the permissions that you have to do that. And then effectively you have the recording itself and the assessment that would need to be completed that will enable you to then generate that CPD certificate. And within certain subjects, in particular, the changing face, we have things like workbooks that come with that session, our masterclasses, we have a range of activities, things like our tax planning event. We also have things like our tax planning checklist. So in most instances, you'll go within the relevant event that's being held, and you'll be able to find those additional resources to be able to support what you're actually looking for. So things like our masterclasses, which have grown significantly in popularity. Those things, they all get uploaded into the platform where there is a CPD element to it, and the members, in particular, things like the masterclass, are the only ones that get access to recordings. Otherwise, you must attend those sessions at the live event. So again, distilling some distinctions between the benefits of being a member versus simply accessing these on a pay-as-you-go basis. Now, David, the other thing I think is worth noting here as well is making sure people understand the importance of them having their own login and subscription, because ultimately you can start to see elements here around the profile, what you've been using, what you've been working on, what you've actually completed, because ultimately the CPD will be allocated and awarded to the person that has that particular subscription, unless you have a CPD subscription that you then have additional team members assigned to.
And early in this week alone, I had a conversation with a member who was being audited. I think it was perhaps a licensee, and they wanted to have evidence of their CPD hours. So they didn't realize that they could actually go into this their library, undertake a couple of webinars, assessments, build up their hours, and then on the certificates, it actually provides the training code indicating the course, what was the knowledge areas, hours, all that is all there. So they didn't realize that. So using reading materials only. So they were very grateful for the guidance. So just those small little things that go a long way. And even looking at that last, dot point there about if you are a business with a CPD business subscription, having the right members accessing the platform. And as you pointed out there just a few moments ago, some people are utilizing this with multiple people, but there's only one point for a CPD certificate for the one member. So that's the only person who can actually claim the rewarded hours and the acknowledgement of
by virtue of the certificate that we issue. So if there may be some unstructured hours that people might be able to use for other bodies and so forth, that's all fine, but we would only issue a certificate based upon the registered subscriber. Hence why we have our CPD business solution that allows for different members to be registered, and therefore they can go in under their own login and therefore gain access to the CPD that they would require themselves.
And staff members who have moved on, or there's changes in team members. So yeah, let us know, and we can add the appropriate member to the subscription potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that leads us into a good point, because this is really now looking at the functionality of our admin console. And this has been growing in importance and most importantly, growing in use with a number of members, where ultimately the admin console is designed for you to be able to manage team members as to who has access to what. So it gives you visibility. And this, whilst today we'll spend a lot of time focusing on the document element to this, under something like our CPD business, you'll be able to see, well, who are the team members that currently have access? Who are the 5 team members that may have the CPD business? So those additional team members, and whether they're the right people. So, and you want to make adjustments to that, because a lot of the information that we have within the platform here around CPD members will be based upon who gets the invites to attend that masterclass or that particular upcoming webinar and so forth. So, but equally, the admin console enables you to manage team members who can access the document subscriptions as well. This is all about putting the power of those document subscriptions in the hands of you, the users, and putting some controls around who does what and how managers may want to oversee the work that's being done by particular team members as well. So David, do you want to, before we jump into the console itself, sort of elaborate a little bit more around how you're seeing the admin console being used within the subscriptions and the tips and tricks that you see around this functionality?
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it comes back to the role, and there's designated levels of roles, who can see, who can generate. There's a lot of subscribers out there who have that, what we call the parent or the administrative role, who will use this function with their team members, who will only create the document to a save point, not order the document.
Yep.
And those administrators will come into this section, review the saved order before signing off and ordering the document. So that's where it sort of comes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the session about the saved orders and how many saved orders of the one fund is within the user. So was it the original creator? They have, obviously, we've seen the power to go in and tidy that up, delete those saved orders that the document has actually been ordered, so we don't need those anymore.
Yep.
Or the person who is the parent has the ability to come in here and delete. We've had, and it's all from feedback. So this is still, it's nowhere near finished technically, because as you can see on the screen there, we had we put a function in where a team member was on holidays for a lengthy period of time, couldn't gain access to their login because of the two-factor authentication. So the manager was able to come into this section through the saved or completed orders. It was actually the completed orders. Click on the plus sign to expand next to the team member, and straight away you can view the completed order. So they were able to generate the document to see what was actually provided to the client, or if it was they're saved, they could complete the order, prepare the rest of the documentation for a client meeting. So
and David, one of the other common ones we're seeing now a lot, and this is a really valuable tip for people, is the fact that we're seeing more and more offshore teams within practices, and therefore this this parent-child functionality and the ability to use this console, we're seeing a lot of the offshore staff preparing documents to submission and then saving that entry and allowing the manager, who may be back here or whoever their direct report is, to then come in and pick up that document and review the information that team member has actually completed. So rather than having that team member simply take that document all the way through to completion, the manager will pick it up at that point in time, go through and review those particular pages of that order. And then once that order, they're happy with it, that manager will then submit that order, and the completed order would obviously get generated for them. Equally, that might apply in an administrative function. So again, you've got a different team member that may be more admin centric. So they're producing that. And again, you've got a parent, and you can see in here, we've got multiple parents if you want to. The parent is important because it gives them access to this area. And ultimately, it allows them to have visibility over all of the users in here to see what documents they do or don't have against their particular profile. So at this point in time, we are needing to manually, I guess, make adjustments. There is some functionality that we're building at the moment to be able to invite additional team members. Eventually, you'll be able to remove those. But if you have people that need to be added in or adjusted in a subscription, you can tell us, and then we will make that adjustment in here and set the relevant permission as well in here. And then naturally away you go in terms of that ordering process. We're letting you dictate the process around what the orders look like. Do you want to allow this person to go through to complete it, and then you're just viewing the particular completed order that in this instance David might have done that I want to go and check and download that PDF? Or do I want David to take it through to the saved order, and therefore I will spend just that little bit more time making sure everything is right in accordance with what I want to see as that generated document. So that is pretty much that left up to you around what your own internal controls look like in respect to that ordering process, and in particular with the teams that you have, both potentially domestically and also offshore. The other part to this, and just going to the subscription details first, I mentioned earlier, we are providing more information into this admin console. So if you're wanting to check details of users, so the tip is come into here and have a look at the information that is in here that we hold in respect to that particular subscription. So it may be around renewal dates. It may be around the anniversary. It may be around your document counters. You can see particular things here around the number of documents that have been used against a subscription, the people that have actually used those documents. If you've got a CPD subscription, again, what the type of document is, how often it's getting renewed, is it an annual payment, is it a monthly payment? If there are, in this instance, a CPD business product, who are the team members that actually have access to that under the CPD business? And again, we're building out the functionality in here for you to be able to make those changes, and that will, in essence, update our database to ensure that the right people end up getting the access. And David, back to the doc subscriptions, if someone does leave, what happens from a process point of view around, I guess, the removal of that person, and most importantly, the orders that were assigned to them?
And that's just expanding on what you've just mentioned there. Some of that functionality hasn't sort of come to light yet because we're still working on that important thing where a team member has left, and that's well and good. We can, delete them. However, if they have created orders, that historical data is going to be sitting somewhere, and that's where someone else needs to have access to that material and information to be able to look at those historical records. So at the moment, we're manually assigning those over once we get a nominated new team member to be able to do that. So we're just working on some of that behind the scenes to, so we haven't put that into, deployed that out yet. So once we've done that, then that will come to light. But it's important to notify us manually. Who has left.
Through the ticketing system, most importantly.
Correct. Yeah, exactly right. So you can see there's a little bit more to it, but you can see that the benefits of, updating the team members for and who they are. But take note that there's potential historic records that need to be reallocated and reassigned to another team member.
Yep. And the final bit here as a tip is just to understand that if you want to look at what usage is going on within the organization, so what user is potentially ordering documents, or what type of document has been ordered, in what sort of time frames to do some sort of reconciliation. You do have the ability to undertake that. You can, again, like I said, choose your relevant time frames here, and you'll get that summary of information showing on the page as well. So,
and that's good. If I come just thinking there, Aaron, that someone's bought a block of documents to do a project like a deed upgrade, and they're finding finding other uses for documents for the reasons to generate docs, so they'll run out or get close to it.
Yes.
So that's when they can talk to us about topping up or upgrading, etc. So
absolutely. Yep. And as we said, you have that ability to download that into a CSV or Excel sort of format, and enabling you to dissect that in whatever way that you see fit. And I guess just jumping back to our slides to get towards the end of today's session, we are working through with our members at the moment a revised parent-child, so increasing the different levels. So we will be sharing some more information in the not too distant future, where we're effectively doubling the number of levels that we have in permissions and what you can and can't do on the platform. All right, so let's sort of wrap up today with a few general tips and tricks around the platform. So I think the most important thing here is that if you do have problems logging in, go to our knowledge base to be able to access a range of articles. So we do have a number of things that are available to you. So if you jump into our knowledge base and you look at, something's not working, so it might be a reset of the password, it will allow you to go through and test it, whether it's through Google Chrome or Microsoft, or you're using an Apple Mac with Safari. We've got the relevant things there to be able to work through. We might come back to you about saying you need to clear some cache and cookies. So in that instance, go into here and you can see here what you would need to do around that sort of process. And again, a bit more of an explanation in that regard as well. David, other sort of things that we've got in here to support,
Heaps.
logging in.
Yeah, two-factor. I'm just watching the clock. Two-factor authentication.
Yes.
Reset that. You might have an email now. You got to put it on your phone. We've expanded it to not just Google, but there's Microsoft as well. So that's all. It's all in there with samples. Not just the knowledge base. There's material on integration. Within the website itself, there's an integration area. There's stuff in our YouTube channel, which you didn't even, perhaps a lot of people don't even realize. So that can cover a multitude of different types of forms, but also not just, what button to press, but why. So there's a lot of supporting material on how to do something, how to complete something, how to find something. Or something's not working, how to fix it. It's I'm not in that type of environment where someone will put up their hand for help and I'll send them 50 links to go work it out themselves. There's bite-sized pieces to find a solution to a particular issue, or if they're wanting to expand further in the platform, weren't even aware about it, or if they've put on new team members who at the beginner stage, we can roll out different types of links to different types of areas to find their feet, build their confidence, and alleviate issues that they can overcome themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think hopefully today we've been able to highlight a range of things for you to understand. So whether they're general, from making sure in the renewal process you can jump in, you can get some detail from the Help Scout, from our knowledge base, Help Scout guides there to be able to support you. It may be as simple as I need to update my credit card. It's about to expire. So there is a journey that we take you through in that sort of last month before renewal. It may be that you need to adjust your multi-factor authentication. It may be that you're having problems logging in. So all those things, we are there not only to support you by phone and by online support, but we have our help guides there as well. And then, as we've really alluded to today across each of those elements, that there are always going to be ways in which things have been designed and built that you might not understand and appreciate. So today was about giving you some guidance on how to best use the Smarter SMSF document platform, and in particular, the enhancements that we're making with our new document platform. Whether you're accessing CPD, so you may be attending live, but how you can use the learning platform to access webinars and masterclasses and the resources that Tim and myself sort of put together to be able to support you on your education journey. And again, our admin console, which is becoming a real critical piece to those that have subscriptions with multiple team members, and being able to manage not only workflow, but then how that subscription will work within that team structure as well. So that takes us to our end. We do have a number of sessions coming up, including our Smarter SMSF update on the 17th of October. So not too far away. We've got a number of unbelievable features that we're going to be highlighting there. David touched on the CSV import as one. We've done some incredible work over the last month or so. A new client list function. We're going to be sharing some intel around that as well. A number of documents that we've been working on, et cetera, et cetera. Our insurance masterclass coming up, and a number of other sessions that you can see on this upcoming events page, which you can go to our Smarter SMSF website to find out more as well. So any final comments, David, before we wrap up today's session?
I think we've covered quite a lot. We were only meant to go for about 40 minutes, so there's plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again for joining. Have a great rest of the day. Take care and bye for now.